Hey guys, it's King. Welcome to another episode of Get Prepped Podcast, where we talk with voice actors, nonprofit leaders, and business owners about a good movie new game, Get Prepped. Today we have one of the many therapists that are going to be involved in the game. He's the owner of Simmons LLC. He's the author of a book on ADHD. He is Dr. Jamaal Simmons. Thanks for coming on, Jamaal.
Hey, how's it going? And Jamaal or Jay is fine.
All right, it's going well. My first question for you is, how did you get into therapy?
So how I got into it was I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. You're 20 something, you're just like, I don't know, kind of wavering back and forth. And was really thinking about what to do moving forward. And then I decided to go back to school. And that's when I chose a social work route and specifically focused on mental health. And that's kind of where I went from there. That's when I got into it. I really loved the idea. From an ADHD perspective, it gave me a lot of dopamine. I was just like, oh yeah, I've always kind of been like a psychology nerd. I always liked that stuff. And then I'm like, I actually get to do it. Let's go,
I definitely feel that I'm the exact same boat myself of figuring out what I want to do after college. My next question for you is, if people aren't sure where to start when it comes to therapy, what's a good starting point for them?
Yeah, if you're not sure, I will say generally I believe therapy can be for everyone. Does everyone need to be in the therapy room? Not necessarily. Generally a good place to start is to kind of sit and figure out what are my needs? What am I going for? Because when I work with someone in therapy, it's about growth. So it's like, where do you want to grow from here? So if you think about it from that term, maybe you want to grow in relationships. Maybe you want to grow in, let's say, how you handle things emotionally. Maybe you want to understand your brain better. Those are things that can start off with books, and so that's why I created ADHD Life Skills 101 book, and it was a self-discovery kind of thing for me. And I'm also working on the second book now. So yeah, it's you don't have to start there at therapist because sometimes therapy can be expensive. So I totally get that, which is why I try to develop things that are more affordable for people to still have access in a more affordable way.
Yeah, that's highly respectful. It seems like a lot of things in this country, especially healthcare, are expensive right now.
Oof.
So, it's definitely important to have affordable options. My next question for you is, you touched a little bit about your book, and your book's is actually going to be one of many that will be in the in-game bookstores that's going to come soon. Do you mind telling us a bit about that?
Sure, yeah. And by the way, I love the idea of the bookstore. When I was told about that, I was recently, I was like, oh shoot, that's cool. So yeah, it's gonna be from what I'm hearing about the bookstore in of itself, it's gonna feature different books. They're testing my book, I'm gonna be testing my book soon. I'm just making it into a JPEG so they can kind of test it out and see in the game how that would work. But yeah, the book itself, that was after I found out that I was diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type. I didn't know at the time. Funny story, that was one of my specialties, which is one of my three main specialties is men's issues, addiction, and ADHD. And I couldn't figure out why. I was really good with ADHD, and I was just I couldn't put my finger on it. And then boom, when I got diagnosed, I was like, oh, and then it just all kind of made sense. And then as I was processing it, I was like, all right, so this is what happened in my childhood. This is what happened. It was like flashbacks kind of coming back, and everything was just connecting and making sense. I was like, that's why I do that, or this, or this. It's not a moral failure on myself. It's more my brain. And not that there's anything wrong with the brain. It's just that my brain works differently. So I have to do things differently as opposed to it's a moral failing. And that's the big, one of the big things I work on, and even talk about in the book, and I want to talk more about in the next book too, is because that can be the really big start to depression symptoms. Because when you think something's wrong with you, then how do you think your self-esteem will feel? How do you think you in general will feel? Versus if you're coming at it from a more strengths-based perspective, then it's like, okay, what can I do with what I have? And that's a more powerful position for a person to come from and move forward.
Yeah, that's a really great message. I really liked what you said about the rate of depression and when you don't embrace who you are. I think that's a really good point. That those two things fall hand in hand in a way. My last question for you is, for those that want to make it as a therapist, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, if you want to make it as a therapist, I would definitely say whether you do it the social work route or the psychology route, either way is fine. I will say psychology focuses more more on mental health. Social work, you can kind of do whatever, but you can also specialize in mental health, which is what I did. I made sure at every single, even if it was like unofficial supervisors, like I had an official supervisor, usually an unofficial supervisor, generally just to get two different perspectives at every site I was at. And yeah, that was really helpful for me to move forward because it gave me a lot of great mentors to kind of ask different questions. I think at one place, I think I had like three really people, if not just two, but yeah, that's what I did. I was just like a sponge in college. I was just like, you know what, especially in grad school, it's just like, you know what, I need to really learn this stuff to really get it in order to really practice well. And then once I was able to do that, I think the biggest thing is just kind of relaxing into who you are and how you work, which leads back once again to the book, because then that was just another self-discovery about how my brain works. I'm like, oh, that's how my brain works in therapy. That's why, I'm chewing gum right now. It's a grounding thing for me. And once I understood that, I could be even a better therapist because I'm more accepting of who I am. Don't get me wrong. Do I still mask when it comes to like therapy sessions? Sure. Interviews? Sure, to some extent. But then I mask less than I used to. And it makes me feel more comfortable as a person. And I feel like I operate better as a person.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. And that's what makes this conversation amazing. And anyways, that's going to do it for this interview, guys. Thank you so much to Jamaal for coming on and sharing his story. If you guys want to see more amazing interviews with those involved in Get Prepped, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Get Prepped channel. And to learn more about the game, scan the QR code here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.